Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Andre and I'm your bookworm, and today, as you can see, because I'm holding this mic again, and I promise I won't be hitting it too much and making weird noises, but today we have not a book review, but we're reviewing episode 3 of Lord of the Mysteries, the anime adaptation of the web novel. For the ones that are new here, I am watching the new adaptation of Lord of the Mysteries, which is a novel that I've read the first volume, almost finished with the third one. I am probably chapter 430, I think, so getting there. But yeah, I've been reading it, reviewing it here on the channel as well. If you're curious, watch it. It's the thumbnails here and of course the cards up there. But anyways, the anime premiered a couple of weeks ago. There are 3 episodes. I mean, by the time this episode comes out, I think there are 4 episodes out already. But yeah, I've been watching, reviewing episode by episode, and let's get on with it, I guess. Oh, if you want to watch my reviews of the other episodes, then just click on these other cards. Okay, so this episode, we start off with Klein and the Nighthawks going into that building where Klein had that dream where he saw the Antigonus notebook, and so they go to try and retrieve it, figure out that the notebook is no longer there, someone took it, and then Klein uses his divination to find out the location. Again, the exaggeration on the divination is a bit off-putting for me, but that's only because I can't really imagine if this, which is a sequence 9 level of power, has so much artifice around it, what will a power like a sequence 2 or 3 will be? It's just like blowing everything around them. Just seems to be a bit too much, but I also understand this is the anime media, which tends to be a bit exaggerated. Yeah, we'll see how they animate the rest of the powers. I mean, we do have a sampling of that later on in this episode, which I'll mention, but yeah, it's just the divination seems just a tiny bit too much. It would have been just easier if it was simpler and the rod would just fall in a direction and move around, because then it itself is already supernatural. After this, once they figure out where the notebook is, they decide to team and gather also artifact 2-049, I think that's the number. Anyways, the puppet that is very creepy. I was very pleasantly surprised with this puppet, with this artifact, because again, it was very creepy. I was expecting it to be creepy, but the animation really made justice to it. And also the animation of the puppet moving and of the effect the puppet had on people, I think was very well done. It was similar to what I had imagined in my mind, and also just a good interpretation, because it's quite dark. I mean, the whole anime has darker vibes, even though is a fantasy. It's one of those darker, grim type steampunk, but very poor or very smoky vibes. So this puppet being this dark also matches. Of course, the movement they have to do to stay awake, or at least to alert when someone is falling under the influence of the puppet, was a bit stupid. I didn't imagine it like that. For some reason, I'm just imagining them doing something like this, but not really like this. This is a weird movement to do, especially in public, as we see in the anime. But anyways, it was a funny moment. It didn't, I don't really criticize it. I think it was funny. It was just different from what I imagined. But I mean, not everything has to be a one-to-one. And besides, I think the funny part of it, the funny element, was good to break the tension, because it had gone to a very creepy place with the puppet and the effect the puppet had. And just before, with them realizing that someone was dead and had done a lot of things, then having this moment to break, especially to what happens after. And what happens after is the big scene of this episode, which is the warehouse fight. Again, we have rampagers, we have things that lost control, and all of that is animated brilliantly. It's very close to what I have imagined when I read it, and therefore I think it's a very good adaptation. As for the battle itself with the Nighthawks, very epic. The animation was very well done in terms of the action movements and just the people fighting throughout with that monster. And I think just the elements of the fighting and the exaggeration was done well. Now, one of the things I need to ask, and this is more for the Mandarin speakers, the characters, when they're fighting, they do sentences that feel like a poem, and I don't know if this is because some of them were or are midnight poets, which is one of the sequences, or sequence 8, I think, but when they're talking, is that really a poem what they're saying? Because the translation, when I read it in subtitles, doesn't seem to have much relevance. It has a feeling of poem, but I want to know if so from someone who actually knows if what they're saying rhymes or has the structure of a poem. And the other thing is this the equivalent of like in the Japanese animes when they attack and they shout the name of the attack? Is that poem the equivalent of it? These are very good questions, and please, if you know, just comment down below. I'm very curious to know. But going back to the fight, then we have Dali attacking the monster, and this attack was probably one of the most epic. I mean, her power, she's a sequence 7 if I'm not mistaken, and she looked way OP. Again, cannot imagine how they're gonna animate sequence 2 or 3. It's gonna be very, very exaggerated, which might not work the best for the anime itself. And then after this sequence, we have probably a sequence just as important, which is the fight with the clown. Again, animation really well done. I understand now some fans have mentioned that they speed up through the first 2 episodes so that they could give a good part of this episode or in a good budget for this episode due to the fights. And the animation of the action was done really well, especially with the clown, all the powers that were used, which reminds me of a thing. Again, fans of Lord of the Mysteries, was this clown supposed to be a magician? Because when I read it, I always assumed he was just sequence 8 clown, and therefore he would have the clown powers. But he exhibited all the powers of a magician. So was he just dressed as a clown because, or was he did he have any artifact that gave him magician powers? I don't really understand. In my opinion, I think he should have been a clown, but I guess they're giving hints of where the sequence might go. Who knows? And besides, he was, in my head, he was dressed as a clown because he was doing the acting so that he could digest that potion. But doesn't seem like he needed if he had already the powers of a magician. But anyways, I think his powers were really cool when used, and I cannot wait for someone in the anime, I'm not gonna spoil it that far, someone to use these powers as well. And then weirdly, after this epic scene, after this climax, we actually go back to the Nighthawks. We go back to the Nighthawks office just to know that Klein realized that the next sequence in his sequence, in the Seer sequence, is clown, and therefore he needs to drink the clown potion. We also get some inklings that he is digesting the potion. I think that's what that animation meant, which is cool. I think I'll wait to see when he fully digests it to see how they actually animate that part. And after this, Klein goes see Mr. Azik. I don't really know how to pronounce it, but anyways, what I want to say about this section is that I think Mr. Azik was not as I expected. I mean, for some reason I thought he would be darker skinned and also not as thin and tall, because it seems like all the characters are very thin and tall. There's not much diversity, which doesn't help when I'm trying to remember who is who, but all the characters kind of look the same. They just have slightly different haircuts. But I don't know if this is just the style of the studio that animated it. And then after this, we basically see, once Klein talks with Mr. Azik, we see Mr. Azik reveal this giant skeleton, which seems to be an evil skeleton. But for the ones that read the web novel, we know what that skeleton means, and I'm gonna keep it up in the air for the ones that haven't read it. But I'm very curious to see the next episode, because now that this is, which was one of the biggest moments of this volume, is done, let's see how they will pace to get to the next big scene, which I won't reveal, but it will involve one character that we already know. But that will leave me curious because, again, I mentioned in the review of the previous episode, there wasn't much of a slice of life type of feeling, and everything seemed quite rushed. And I hope we can slow down a bit and understand a bit more of how the world works, because it's been bombarding us with a lot. And for the people that don't really know the web novel, I can imagine it can be quite confusing. Again, I've been watching this with other people, and they do seem to say that there's a lot they don't understand, even though it is a very good anime. But yeah, let me know what you think. If you know any of the answers to the questions I asked, comment down below. If you like the episode, comment down below. And if you don't, also comment down below, because why not? Just don't be super negative. Be criticize, but without being negative. Constructive criticism, that's what we call it. Anyways, I'll be seeing you soon on Thursdays and Fridays. The schedule might be changing a bit because I am moving soon and therefore I need to unpack and pack again. No, pack and unpack. And therefore things might be different. The schedule might be slightly different, but I will keep you updated on everything. So stay tuned and I shall be seeing you soon, right? See ya.